It's not even from your driving. The Hemp House has a variety of products for dogs as well. Visit hemphousechat.com for more information.
We all want to enjoy our retirement years, right, and live as long and healthy as we possibly can. But did you know that falling when you are older is a real worry for mortality in this country? Allan Valenzuela is here with Alliance Physical Therapy. You're seeing this every day because your whole job as a physical therapist is to strengthen and balance your body to prevent those falls in part.
Yeah, it's really sad because all of us have had somebody in our family who has fallen. They're on walkers, they're on quad canes. They've broken hips, they've had hip replacement surgery, and it's just sad because the numbers are astronomical, and we're going to read them from the CDC here in a second. But I'm going to say 80% or better of these people, this can be prevented.
So let me ask you something. Is what happens always that someone who, let's say, is 84 years old trips and falls and thereby breaks his or her hip?
That's
or does it ever happen that there is a weakness in the body and there's a crack that occurs that makes you fall?
It does. So somebody with a diagnosis of osteopenia, which is really weak bones, or osteoporosis, extremely weak bones, you could have a fall, a fracture that caused a fall.
Okay.
So yes, that can be happening. That has to be addressed by the physician with medications that would help their bones, or the patient educating themselves on better nutrition to support their bone structure.
So having a bone density scan, a good idea.
On a regular basis, actually. As you get older, that is a good idea for everybody to start doing.
Okay, so in the other example I gave, you're walking down a sidewalk and there's a crack and you just don't quite navigate it properly, right? You kind of slide your foot, you trip and fall. You mentioned quads. Is what happens that our legs become imbalanced where our quads are working more than our back muscles?
So I mentioned quad because it's called a quad cane. It's a cane that has 4 legs on it.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm a literal person. Okay.
But what happens basically is you get older, you get feeble, you get inactive, you're sitting around more, you don't have energy, and those things are a byproduct of just lifestyle. Mostly it's poor choice habits in the type of food you eat, the quality of the food you eat, lack of getting out and exercise. You start to slow down as you get older. And so if you're not being active and there's no what we would call approximation in the joints, the bones aren't being pushed against each other and being pulled by tendons and ligaments and muscles, then they become brittle and weak. And you become feeble, and you start seeing it. And we see it in our grandparents. They move very slowly, and their balance is off. And you might even be standing with them. I was speaking with somebody the other day, and I said, hey, I really need you to get to one of my clinics right now. And I'm not saying this, I don't need you. I do need your business, but I'm not doing it because I need your business. But he's wobbling while I'm talking to him.
Yeah.
He's going to break a hip. It's inevitable.
What about the type of shoe you wear? Because sometimes you have foot issues as you get older, and people will wear their shoes a little bit wider to accommodate a bunion or something. Does that make it more likely that you're going to trip?
It just depends. If they have a poor gait pattern,
okay,
and they're not doing normal gait patterns and where they're clearing their foot, yes, there's a good chance that they could trip over themselves. But it's more it's a balance issue. And it could be somewhat vestibular with some of these people, which we can address. But a lot of time, it's just poor muscle control and weakness around the hip joint.
Okay.
Is where most of it is happening, that core strength, that stabilizing. And you can see it. You see some people's grandparents, they're in their 80s, and they're still out there playing tennis and doing crazy stuff. Why? Somehow these people have managed to just live a high level of life, eating well, eating healthy, eating clean, staying active. These people can continue to go on. They're going to, if they break a hip or something, it's because they tripped over something on accident. They had an accident.
Right.
But for most Americans, it's not like that.
Okay, you got some stats you wanted
Let's
to share.
look at what the CDC has to say about this. This wants my Face ID. Okay, so this is from the CDC. About 36 million older adults fall each year, resulting in more than 32,000 deaths.
That's a lot.
It is a lot. Each year, about 3 million older adults are treated in the emergency departments for a fall. 1 out of every 5 fall causes an injury, such as a broken bone or a head injury, which is even worse, because then, your grandparent, whoever it is, they're going to come back and they might not be the same person they were before. Each year, at least 300,000 older people are hospitalized for hip fractures. More than 95% of hip fractures are caused by falling, usually by falling sideways, and that's a balance issue. Women fall more often than men and account for 3/4 of all hip fractures.
Okay, and how much of this is true that if you are getting older, and we all know that age is the number, right? So you could have a 62-year-old who is, quote, older than an 82-year-old,
Right.
depending on how he or she lives.
That's right.
So you begin to be a little bit off in your balance, and maybe now you're afraid, so that makes you withdraw even more. You're adding insult to injury, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And fear is probably the biggest thing here, because once you start feeling that, you start
Yeah.
staying and shuffling, and you're afraid. And that's what our program does. I mean, we put them in a harness, we blindfold them, and we take the fear factor
Oh,
out
wow.
of falling. And once we can get that out of them, they start standing up straight, they start using a normal gait pattern, picking up their feet and clearing their feet, using a wider base of support. And that's the whole point of this program, is to take the fear back out, strengthen their core, their hips, their quads, and getting them to where they can be confident again and not be falling.
So you mentioned the program. When somebody comes to you at Alliance Physical Therapy, if they're concerned about balance and falling, should they let you know that up front? Will you put them on a certain path?
Absolutely. So if we see it, we'll address it, and we'll address it with their physician who sent them. Say, you may have sent them for this, but this is our findings. Would you like to address it? And at that
Okay.
point, the physician would send us another order. Yes, we want to work on balance and
Okay.
fall prevention.
Okay, but they don't have to come with the physician's referral because you are direct access,
That's correct. Some insurance is still required. Almost every insurance, the first visit is okay.
Okay.
Some insurances won't require it after the first visit, but there are some insurances where we will have to help you call the doctor and say we do need a referral for additional visits.
And it's a bit of a family atmosphere when you're there, because you begin to see multiple people always coming at the same
That's
time
right.
as
That's
you,
right.
so you strike up a friendship and you have fun comparing who's making the most progress the quickest, right?
That's right.
Alan, always good to see you.
Same here.
You can find him online at nopainpt.com. The phone number there on your screen. There are locations all around the viewing area. So the phone number is not a 423 or a 706. It's more generic. That way you can just simply call and they'll point you in the right direction closest to your home. We're back with more right after this.
Show us your mug and you could win one of our mugs, plus a delicious ice cream cake from Dairy Queen. Just email your photo to showusyourmug@wrc.com.